The envelope wasn't the most dangerous thing I brought to that dinner. It was the second page inside it. I sat in my car for a moment before going in. The house was beautiful, I'll give them that. A detached 4-bedroom in Oakville, backing onto a ravine, the kind of neighborhood where every driveway has 2 vehicles and every front porch has a wreath that changes with the season. My son and his wife had moved in 14 months ago. I had helped make that possible. Not a small help, either. I had co-signed the mortgage because their combined income looked strong on paper, but their savings history looked like a student's. I trusted the paper. I should have looked more carefully at the history. I turned off the engine and tucked the envelope into my bag. My daughter-in-law had called it a family dinner. That phrase, from her, always meant something was coming. I am 64 years old. I worked for 31 years as an administrator at a school board in Burlington. I retired 2 years ago with a pension that covers my needs, a paid-off condo, and, because I had always been careful, a TFSA that I do not touch unless I have to. I am not wealthy. I am stable. There is a difference, and not everyone in my life has respected it. My son met his wife 8 years ago. I liked her, at first. She is quick and social, and she has a way of making a room feel like a party. My son had always been a little quiet, a little serious, and she brought something out in him that I was grateful for. Her mother, Diane, lives 40 minutes away in Mississauga. They are close. That closeness, I would come to understand, came with a very particular arrangement. Their daughter was born the previous spring. I drove up the day after they came home from the hospital. I brought food. I helped with laundry. I stayed 3 nights on the pullout in the office. My son cried the first time he held her, and I stood in the doorway and did not say anything, because there was nothing to say. Some moments don't need commentary. By September, they had gone back to work, both of them. My son is in commercial real estate. His wife is a senior marketing manager at a firm downtown. Together they earn, by my rough estimate, something close to $290,000 a year before tax. In Ontario, that is a good income. It is, by any reasonable measure, enough. Daycare in the Greater Toronto Area is not cheap. I know that. The wait lists alone are something out of a bureaucratic nightmare. You put your name down before the child is born, and you still might not get a spot. I understood the stress. What I did not understand until that dinner was the solution they had quietly settled on. I knocked. My son opened the door. He hugged me and took my coat and said dinner smelled good, which it did. His wife is a strong cook. I have always said so. Their daughter was already in her high chair, mashing something orange against the tray with both palms. I kissed the top of her head and sat down. We ate for a while without anything unusual. They asked about my trip to Prince Edward Island in August. I asked about my son's latest project, a mixed-use development near Hamilton. His wife talked about a campaign she was leading. It was pleasant. It was, I kept noticing, very pleasant in a deliberate sort of way, the way a conversation is pleasant when someone is waiting for the right moment. The right moment came after the main course. My son set down his fork and looked at his wife, and she gave him a small nod, and he looked at me. "Mom," he said, "we've been talking and we think we've found a solution to the childcare situation." I waited. "Daycare costs around $2,000 a month," he said, "for a spot we actually like. There's one in Port Credit that has availability, but it's $2,200, and the one closer to home has a 14-month wait." "That's a real problem," I said, and I meant it. "We were thinking," he continued, and here he glanced at his wife again, "that it might make sense for you to take care of her. During the week, we'd cover your gas, obviously." I looked at him, then at her, then back at him. "You want me to babysit, full-time, 5 days a week?" "We wouldn't call it babysitting," his wife said. She smiled when she said it. "You'd be her primary caregiver. It's actually a beautiful role." I kept my face calm. I have had 64 years of practice keeping my face calm. "I'm retired," I said. "I don't go back to work." My son leaned forward. "Mom, it's not work, it's family. You'd be here, you'd be part of her life every single day." "I am part of her life," I said. "I'm her grandmother. That's not the same thing as being her daycare." His wife reached over and touched my arm. "We just thought, since you have the time, I have the time, I said, because I retired. Retirement is supposed to be time. There was a pause. Outside, a car went by. The baby threw her spoon onto the floor and made a sound of great satisfaction. There's also something else, my son said. I waited again. The mortgage. He folded his hands. The variable rate is resetting in February. The payment is going to go up by about $600 a month. We talked to the bank about locking into a fixed rate, but with the new stress test, they want to requalify. Because you're on the mortgage, they'd need you to re-sign. I know how co-signing works, I said. Right. So they'd need your income still on the application. I tilted my head. My pension counts as income. He cleared his throat. They want employment income. Or at least they're flagging the change since the original application. So, you need me to still appear to be earning what I was earning when I signed the first time. We're looking into options, his wife said quickly. The broker thinks there might be a way to structure it. But it would help if you were contributing in some way. Officially. I looked at her for a long moment. I thought about the 14 months since they'd moved in. I thought about the times I'd come up to help when the baby was sick, and one of them had a meeting they couldn't reschedule. I thought about the weekend in March when I stayed over to cover both Saturday and Sunday because they had a wedding in Niagara-on-the-Lake. I thought about the times I had not been asked precisely, but had shown up because that is what you do, and because I love my son, and I love that small person who throws her spoon on the floor. And I thought about Diane. Can I ask something? I said. Of course, my son said. What is Diane doing right now for childcare? She's retired too, isn't she? A very brief silence. She helps, his wife said. Sometimes. How often? She comes on Thursdays. Just Thursdays. She has her own things going on. Her voice had gone slightly careful. She does aquafit. She has her book club. I see, I said. And does she come just to help? Or is there an arrangement? Another silence, longer this time. My son said, What do you mean by arrangement? I reached into my bag and took out the envelope. I want to be clear that I did not go looking for this information. I did not snoop or pry or do anything I would be ashamed of. What happened was that 6 weeks earlier, I had offered to help my daughter-in-law organize the household binder, insurance documents, car registrations, the mortgage paperwork, all of it was in a shoebox under the stairs. She had seemed grateful. I spent an afternoon sorting and filing. And while I was doing that, I found an e-transfer record that had been printed and tucked into a folder labeled Miscellaneous. It was a recurring transfer. $450 every Thursday, sent to an account labeled with Diane's initials. I had sat with that piece of paper for a long time. Then I had put it back where I found it, and I had gone home, and I had thought about what to do. What I had done was pull my own financial records together, not because I wanted to use them as a weapon, because I needed to understand the full picture before I walked into this conversation. I opened the envelope and took out the pages and set them on the table. This is a summary of what I contribute annually, I said in concrete terms. My son looked at the top page. Mom, we don't need to. I think we do, I said. I come up 8 to 10 times a year for overnight or weekend stays. At a conservative estimate of 12 to 15 hours each visit, that's roughly 120 hours a year. I've covered 3 sick days this year, and twice I came on no notice at all. I bought the crib, the stroller, and the baby monitor as gifts. I have not asked for anything back, and I'm not asking now. I'm just putting it on the table. I turned to the second page. This is the cost of full-time childcare in this region. The options range from $1,400 for a subsidized space, which has a wait list, to $2,200 for a private center. In-home nanny care runs between $2,500 and $3,000 a month after payroll remittances, because in Canada, if you hire a nanny, you are their employer and you owe CPP and EI contributions. My daughter-in-law had gone very still. What I'm being asked to do, I continued, is the equivalent of a full-time nanny position, 5 days a week, which, at minimum wage, would cost you roughly $2,800 a month. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for anything. What I'm saying is that I can't do it. Mom, my son started. I'm 64 years old. I have a cervical disc issue that flares when I carry weight. Your daughter is wonderful and I love her completely, but infants and toddlers require constant physical management. Getting up from the floor, carrying them, chasing them. I did it with you. I cannot do it 5 days a week for years. We're not asking for years, his wife said. Her voice had an edge now. Just until she's old enough for school. She's 14 months old. School is 4 years away. I looked at her steadily. And I would also note, because it's relevant, that Diane comes on Thursdays and Diane is being paid. The silence was complete. My son looked at his wife. She did not look back at him. How did you? She started. It doesn't matter how, I said. What matters is that there is already a paid childcare arrangement in this house for 1 day a week, and I was not told about it. I was being asked to provide 4 additional days for free by people who are paying someone else for one. My son pressed his fingers to his forehead. That's Diane's arrangement. That's between her and she needed the money, okay? It was a favor. $450 a week is not a favor, I said. It's a job, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a fair rate for what she's doing. But I am not going to do 4 times that work for nothing, and then also re-sign a mortgage document so that your bank application looks better than your finances actually are. That's not what we're asking, his wife said, and now she wasn't being careful anymore. We're asking for help. We're asking for family support. I know what you're asking, I said, and I want to give you family support. I want to be in this house, I want to be with her, I want to watch her grow up. But I am not able to be a full-time caregiver, and I am not going to sign financial documents that put my condo and my retirement security on the line for a mortgage that you are already having trouble managing. I paused. You are bringing in close to $300,000 a year, I said. I need someone to explain to me, and I genuinely need to understand this, why that is not enough. My son was quiet for a moment. Then he said, the mortgage is $4,000 a month. After the reset, it'll be close to $4,600. Okay, the cars are $900 combined. You have 2 car payments, they were both needed. I'm not judging the cars, I said. Keep going. Groceries, utilities, insurance, her daycare, the gym. We have a Costco membership and a meal kit subscription and, he stopped. And the country club, his wife said quietly. I looked at her. We joined Briarwood in the spring, she said. Corporate membership. It's important for his networking. How much? My son said, $400 a month. I sat with that for a moment. $400 a month for a club membership, $450 a week to Diane, 2 car payments, a meal kit subscription, and they could not find $2,000 for registered daycare. This is not an income problem, I said. This is a spending problem. My son opened his mouth. I'm not saying that to be cruel, I said. I'm saying it because it's true, and because until you see it clearly, you will keep looking for solutions in the wrong places. You will keep looking at me. The baby had fallen asleep in her high chair, her cheek resting on the tray, the orange mush forgotten. She looked exactly like my son had looked at that age. I felt the familiar pull of it, the love that is not a feeling so much as a fact, a physical fact, like gravity. I will come every second Tuesday, I said. That's my offer. A full day, 6 hours, no charge. I'll take her to the library, I'll do music class with her, I'll be genuinely present. I will not be her caregiver, I will be her grandmother. Every second Tuesday isn't. His wife started. It is what I can give without hurting myself, I said, and I can help you make a spreadsheet. She blinked. Of your actual monthly expenses, all of them, including the Thursday arrangement. Because when you sit down with a mortgage broker in February, they are going to ask you the same questions I'm asking, and they are not going to accept family support as a line item. My son looked at the pages still sitting on the table. He looked at his daughter, asleep with her cheek in the mush. He looked at his wife. I picked up my water glass and took a sip and waited. After a long moment, he said, "Can you send me those spreadsheet templates?" His wife pushed back from the table and picked up some plates and carried them to the kitchen without saying anything. I heard the tap run. I heard a cupboard close. My son and I sat in the quiet for a moment. I didn't know she was paying her mom, he said. I know you didn't, I said. I need to talk to her about that. Yes, I said. You do. He looked at the pages again. The country club was my idea, for what it's worth. Okay. I thought it would help, professionally. It hasn't. Really. He shrugged. Not yet, anyway. I reached across the table and put my hand over his for a moment. He is 40 years old, my son. He still looks surprised, sometimes, when the world does not cooperate with his plans. I have been watching that expression on his face since he was 8 years old. You're not in crisis, I said. You're in overextension. There's a difference. You can fix overextension. He nodded. The tap in the kitchen went off. His wife did not come back to the table right away. I gathered my pages and put them back in the envelope and tucked the envelope into my bag. I kissed the top of the baby's head again, gently, so as not to wake her. Then I stood, and I found my coat on the rack by the door, and I let myself out. On the drive back down the QEW, the lake was dark on my right, and the city lights were coming up ahead, and I thought about the first time I had made this drive. 37 years ago, following a moving truck to a bachelor apartment in Etobicoke. Everything I owned in boxes, starting over after a marriage that had stopped working. I had been 31 years younger and considerably more frightened. I had figured it out. Not because anyone rescued me. Because I sat down with a piece of paper and wrote down what I had, and what I owed, and what I needed, and I lived inside those numbers until the numbers changed. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat as I merged onto the 427. I glanced down at the next light. It was a text from my son. Thank you for coming. I know that wasn't easy. We'll figure it out. I set the phone back down. The lights of the city stretched out ahead of me, a long ribbon of amber and white. I had not brought the spreadsheet to win anything. I had brought it because it was true, and because sometimes the kindest thing you can give the people you love is a clear picture of where they actually are. The rest is up to them.